because that's going to be that's going to constitute the predominant crux of today's conversation. If you guys have any questions, any comments, saying anything you guys want to get out, just feel free to interrupt me at any given time, because if not, this is going to be a stream of consciousness from my side. On the agenda for today is, well, first let me take a kind of look at what we want to do moving forward with these broker councils, because I know for the last 2 weeks we didn't have them. Well, actually last 3 weeks, because one of them was Father's Day. But of my actions was 2 weeks, and during this time we've been able to, apart from put together the set of releases that we want to and that we're going to discuss, we've also really thought about how we want to use, or what type of engagement system we want to use in order to be able to engage or inspire the continuous engagement of the next several thousand brokers that we plan on onboarding. And that's not a self-evident idea, because it's not obvious what the appropriate strategy should be. I've come up with something, and I've ran it across several people that I think could be viable. It has its roots, and right now I'm speaking specifically as kind of more of a reoccurring engagement cycle, similar to the way that the broker council is a weekly reoccurring engagement cycle. But how we can do that to expand and include more people, because at the current moment we're literally, I literally mean about a day or two away from doing a huge direct-to-consumer push, and that is going to be accompanied by another wave of a very large B2B push from the broker's perspective. And you guys will get a little bit of insight as to what we're planning on that side. Obviously, we're going to release the entirety of what that means for brokers, and what that even is going to enable, or what that's going to be attractive for brokers in the domain of. But even just the release of InstaCrypto in the fashion that we're doing it will obviously spark a lot of new interest or re-engage old interest. So with kind of that new attention, I wanted to underpin that with concrete mechanisms of, let's call it training, community management, and engagement, which are something that has to happen on a reoccurring basis. So if I was to revisit what we've done in the past, we've had daily webinars. We've had webinars that happen once every other day. We've obviously had the broker council. Those are probably the closest things, and we did those for short periods of time, and those are probably the closest things to any reoccurring engagement system that we had. What we learned from those is that they work, and that in order to keep them working, you needed to make it more engaging, like every time, because people obviously get sense, like people get, they develop a tolerance for them, even if it's very engaging the first several times. And so how we plan on combating that requirement for increased excitement, as well as getting everybody, or not everybody, but different constituencies that we have to engage with that, is all a part of the evolution of the broker council. If you remember, the initial reason for the broker council when we started it about 2 months ago was simply to have a forum to address the growing questions that were not being answered. And what I think we've accomplished with the broker council is that the people that are a part of the broker council are far more comfortable, and they just have their questions answered. And I think that right there is good for the people that are a part of it, but not good for the people that are not a part of it. And so we've experienced qualitative differences in the way that the people in the broker council treat Global Exchange. They're obviously more temperate, like they have a better temperament about it, because they feel informed. Whether or not they're daily actively pursuing the opportunity, that's not what we really care about. What we care about is their relationship with the with the technology or the vision, and the people in the council just have a far better one, even if their engagement is low. And so we know that it has worked for the 12 people if the objective is just to have getting everybody that is a part of this kind of engagement process to have more more tolerance and more purview into the products. And so we want to expand that access to everybody. Now, just doing a weekly company-wide call is kind of the obvious answer, but I don't think that is the answer that will allow us to continue to engage with that level, because I think that will have some depreciating effects over time. So what I'm actually going to do is continue the broker council, but make it much less of a 1-on-12 conversation, although it could be still very based in two-way communications, but make it me talking to everybody, but addressing the council. So it's almost like a hearing that's obviously done by the people on the call, but is going to be live for everybody to see immediately. And so that's one kind of element. It's going to be I'm going to release the structure for this week, which is something like there are going to be people that we invite, and it's going to be a rotating list. That's the other thing. The council members will be a rotating list. Now, it probably means that the guys that are currently invited will be the first several to be invited, but it will be like, let's say this week, X amount of people from the group of 12 people that we have right now are invited. They get to be on the call with me. I speak to them, they get to ask questions, but everybody else also gets to watch the stream, and it goes to YouTube right away. So that's just more of like let's call it a state of the union that happens on a weekly basis. So it's easily consumable via live stream. Also, it is consumable on YouTube immediately thereafter. In conjunction with that, we are really thinking about ways on maybe even a daily basis on how to engage. I have developed something for that, something that's very gamified. That's something that has roots and incentives that we want to pay out and things of that nature. I think that I'll save that probably alongside the release of of Broker 2.0, which is the name of the entire set of releases, which includes a technology release as well as an incentive release for the next generation of the global exchange broker platform. So, but from now on, that is how the broker council will work. It will be much more heavily promoted. Obviously, right now we don't promote the broker council because we don't particularly, nobody knows about it because only the people in the 12 know about it. But now it will be a promoted event. The people that are invited to be on camera with me will be obviously promoted as well. And everybody is able to join. Certain people are willing to have dialogue with, and those are obviously selected in the previous week. So that's what's going to happen as a fixture every Sunday. It's going to be much more like a press conference. And then with the release of the new broker platform, or the new rebranded paradigm of the broker platform, which we'll talk about briefly today, I'll be releasing a daily incentive package. So I just wanted to put that to the side, clear out how we're going to do that. In conjunction with that, I've also, maybe this is slightly, this has more to do with just personnel and sentiment and kind of momentum. Up until now, we had, with the team had made it clear, and I had also made it clear that I wouldn't be the ideal person to be engaging with the consumer audience from a public perspective, also the broker audience from a public perspective. Those of you that have been with us before, let's say January 2020, and I'm speaking right now also to the people that are going to watch this on YouTube immediately after, as well as the gentlemen that are on this call. But those of you that have been with us since before January 2020 would recall that I would be doing a lot of the things that, for example, you see Sal do now, or even stuff that you see Ariel, Anurag, or Warren and these guys do. After about January, February, I tapered that down a lot simply because we collectively decided that I had to focus very aggressively on development, product development, systems development, security with the team. That role is now shifting back. I think I may have touched on this in some other calls that I've done where it's it's always a cycle, but now I'm making just a clear dictation that from literally this day, from the release of this video, as well as the release of my videos that I made and put on YouTube, I will be the primary face as it pertains to delivering information direct to consumer, direct to the mass market that doesn't know about global exchange, but also direct to the brokers. And so that will be, I think, at least an interesting experience for people to be able to get my purview. My goal is to release the better half of about 5 videos per day. And most of those for the next, let's say 30 to 35 days are actually just updates and fixes, just ways to kind of to elucidate what we've been working on. But then underpinning those will be much more just engagement, again, content engagement and ways that people are able to join global exchange and accomplish what they want to accomplish in whatever domain. So I think me coming back to the forefront is also a sign of where the company wants to go now, which is back into building momentum as opposed to getting everything together. Because now that we've been able to kind of do that part, we have excuse my language, I'm still gonna say I won't even do it, but we have a lot in the tank in terms of intellectual property, but just in terms of unique solutions, unique systems from a technology perspective, unique brands that is head and shoulders above what's in the market, but we obviously haven't talked about or listened because we didn't have the bandwidth for people to learn about it. Partially that bandwidth of myself, and now that's obviously being turned into what I'm discussing now. So I just wanted to put those two things out before we get into kind of just the announcements of the day. So everybody on this call, but definitely not everybody watching, would have seen the videos, the first videos I put out regarding InstaCrypto. And so for people that want to know what that kind of looks like, I want to give you guys an idea here. Let's see if I can have it draw it up. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I think you guys can all see my screen now. Give me a thumbs up if you can, or a thumbs up if you can, a thumbs down if you can't. Beautiful. So primary. Okay, so I think the entirety of all, let's say, opinions, sentiment, experiences, like everything people have, come to realize or experience with global exchange has culminated or organized itself into 3 categories. And these are not like 3 product lines. They're not 3 types of users. There are 3 categories whereby products, users, sentiment, lucrative opportunities intertwine. And we've developed an internal map to look at this because we realized, okay, we're heading now into what we want to start as really generating the next wave of customers, the next wave of brokers. And that means that we have to re-examine ourselves, understand our value propositions as an ecosystem, and then manifest those in paradigms that A, people can relate to, and B, people can self-select themselves in. And why that's important is that the first wave of customers and brokers that literally have extended until now, like from the time, it's about 1 year from the time that we started talking about this in May of last year all the way until today, people from all walks of life found some optimism or prospect in entertaining or learning about global exchange, but there was no self-selection process. It was kind of like everybody wanted to pick out a global exchange, what made sense for them. And you can see how that actually manifests itself by everybody having a different opinion on it and everybody having a different reason for their opinion on it. And so I'll give you an example. Both me and Ariel, coming from, like, if we were just, people engaging with global exchange just as anybody else did, then I could at this point be thrilled with global exchange, and he can be thrilled, but we can be thrilled for completely different reasons. He might be thrilled because his favorite color is blue, and I might be thrilled because I'm able to do e-transfer deposits, whatever it is. Similarly, he could be angry, I could be angry, and we could be angry for two different reasons. He could be angry because, the altcoin that he wants to trade is not supported by global exchange yet. And I could be angry because I live in Liechtenstein and I don't have the simplest access. And so what that's a symptom of is a one size fits all mentality. And if you've watched my vision readdressed for 2020 July, that's the first thing I tried to tackle down. And global exchange is not one size fits all. It's a community of people that have almost nothing to do with each other, nothing to relate with each other. You have traders, you have people trying to buy Bitcoin for the first time. You have people that are influential in other domains of life that want to make money as a broker. You have people that are influential in crypto trying to make money as a broker, right? And so, that's just, you have people that are white labels. You have people that are just now developers, a big growing community of developers. You have people that are just investors. You have people that are using us to buy large amounts of Bitcoin, small amounts of Bitcoin, use ICE, so many different things. And so with that domain comes a group of people that don't look like each other, that don't feel like each other. And if they all tug at the same, set of values, it's not going to work out. And so that, I would say, is the best example. That's the best explanation of our first wave of momentum, which I would say went all the way for about a year. Obviously momentum works in cycles, but I'm just saying I'm making the arbitrary distinction that it was about the time we started till now. And that's fine, because at the beginning you don't want to, self-segregate your message too much. And you don't want to, you kind of want a homogenous community, even if it's not meant to be homogenous. But now that we're going into, let's call it phase 2, we want to be much more clear with where in the global exchange universe any person that is engaging with global exchange can fit. And so this is how we have analyzed that, is what you're about to see on my screen. And again, this is not a clear cut, like, GX breaks down into 3 products or 3 levels or 3 this, that, and the other. It's definitely not that. It can't be that, because of how dynamic we've made some of the access points. But if it was to be something that looks close to that, it would be DTC, which stands for direct to consumer. Then you have broker, and then you have token. So this, and I know 2 of those words are very familiar to you guys, which is broker and token. It doesn't mean the definition that you guys maybe have thought it to mean, which is, oh, token means the GX token, broker means GX broker. I want to try to take this as an opportunity to express that these are lucid paradigms that have interoperating states. People, users, feelings, sentiment, money travels through these paradigms pretty loosely. But if we had to draw some borders, this is what it would look like. The first video, like if you look at my the videos that I released, they're broken down into these 3 categories. Playlist 1, direct to consumer. Playlist 2, broker 2.0. Playlist 3, GXT transformation. So I'm releasing the onslaught of content, which obviously the majority of will happen in the first week or so of me talking about this now, in these three categories. Within these three categories, there are obviously subsets that better classify someone's engagement. And so let's say that under direct to consumer, the first one that we did was obviously InstaCrypto as a direct to consumer point. And the entire video, all the videos that you've seen so far are just, excuse me, I'll show you in here. Like if you click playlist 1, direct to consumer, there's one subset for InstaCrypto, there's one for CryptoLottery. There's obviously several more that are not even on here that we're ready to move with. And why that's important, I'm showing right here. So under direct to consumer, you're looking at, let's say the first one being InstaCrypto. Okay. And could be something like CryptoLottery being number 2, etc. Right? So, and then under broker, it will have its own, relative engagement points, and under token, obviously a tremendous amount. So that's how it's going to play out. That's how the content is going to be released. Why is that important? And B, what does that mean for you guys? What does that mean for the people watching? It first means that we're dedicating ourselves, our resources, our staff to native messaging for each of these subcategories. And those native messaging components are obviously expressed through advertising, through word of mouth, through social media, through, whatever it is, and won't have anything to do with each other for the most part. Like right now, we have one Facebook group for the purpose of consolidation, but that Facebook group it's not working for anybody because it's trying to work for more than 1-2 constituents. And you can see that we are able to engage people, but the engagement sometimes doesn't make sense for someone reading it. And so that is very important to see already. Why that hasn't been a tremendous problem until recently is because only recently did we even start talking about these two as direct to consumer applications. And I've never made that articulation as I've made on this call today, clear as on this call today. But now that it's more visible that the engagement points transcend, one homogeneous vision, I think there's going to be lots of conflict. And that just might be out of the lack of information. I think that could be out of the, frustration on certain levels, or even that could be out of one doing really well and one not. And although that's a natural outcome of releasing things, that's not easy for a particular constituent to maybe swallow. So what we have to do is we have to speak the language to the person that wants to be spoken to in that language. And so the first degree of separation is these three things. Direct to consumer obviously means the products, apps, brands that we think are so good, they don't need someone to sell them. That's to put it frankly. Coinbase's mobile app doesn't need someone to sell it. None of the crypto exchanges do, or they don't believe so. I mean, whether they do or not is not my kind of position. They don't believe so. They don't believe so that they need to reshare their fees or anything like that, or they might to some small level, but not like the way that we've talked about it. Fortnite doesn't feel like they need someone to sell it, obviously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you invest the capital expenditure as a company to build an application or a service that's so good that it doesn't need to be sold, it just needs to be presented, that would be what I dictate as direct to consumer. So far, we've had none of those. And maybe people think it's because we don't focus on that or we don't want to. No, it's because we have brokers. And so, I think I touched on this in 2 of my videos that I released. It's like, no, your product, like, if it's, well, let's just say it's Amway, and I don't want to, compare ourselves to Amway in any regards, but Amway soap is not as cheap as other soap. I don't know, I've never used it, but I'm not willing to say it's the best soap in the world either. But that's because their business model positions the brokers to make up for that. That's what those margins are there for. Tide or Irish Spring don't have that. Their product has to speak for themselves. And so we've never even had the notion of building something like that, simply because we're like, well, then where does that leave the brokers? And I think I touched on that in the last video of the InstaCrypto series, which is, if InstaCrypto works the way that it's supposed to work, and I'll show you how it works on the latest version on my phone, and you guys can all download it too, then that's really a hell of a consumer app. And CryptoLottery is the same degree of kind of potential. And the other apps that I haven't even released that are completely done, like this is the other thing with the direct-to-consumer vibe. The direct-to-consumer vibe implicates that they're finished products usually. They're well put together. They're built for adoption, not built for, kind of sales processes. They're built more for adoption. They're built really well to put ad dollars behind, paid ads, most notably PPC. And the other thing is, you don't really worry too much as a company if you have 100 direct-to-consumer products, because the problem that we face when we don't have direct-to-consumer quality products, which we haven't had, is that, not only does it need to make sure that everybody's taken care of and it's capable of being redistributed to some degree, also we have to invest the time, money, and energy into educating the people that are now going to need to compensate for the fact that it's not a direct-to-consumer ready product, or it's priced more expensively than one, whatever it is. So that's where you would see all the investment into training and community engagement and growing your affiliate network and what all the companies do that are in the traditional affiliate marketing space. That's obviously a bandwidth that the company has to take into consideration when releasing a new product, but that is not a bandwidth that McDonald's takes into consideration when releasing a new burger, because there's no inherent additional, paradigm change. It's another very tasty, probably well-engineered, highly addictive sandwich that sits next to all of their other ones. That sells itself. That's cheap. That's so cheap, it's competitively rational to go get it. And that's where we're at. So we can release 15 DTC apps if their quality is of that nature, if the software's user interface is of that nature. You couldn't release 15 versions of GX Nitrous. It's impossible, because GX Nitrous had so many places where the brokers had to step in, not just for their sake, but also for our sake, because it wasn't the consumer quality product. It was something that needed to be sold and explained and handheld, as you guys do. You couldn't do 15 of those, because then you'd have to invest 15 times the amount of time into educating the brokers or team to do that. You could see some of the latency issues we experience with that as well, not with the direct to consumer, because the direct to consumer essentially just people that like it come here. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. That's the mentality. And so why that I'm saying that is, of course, also to keep the structure coherent, but also because these are just two. And they couldn't be more different. Like, I'll explain InstaCrypto a little bit more detail today, but CryptoLottery I went in great detail in the previous broker council calls. Obviously, the people that have not seen the previous broker council calls, which is everybody has no idea about CryptoLottery, apart from some of the videos that we've released. But you guys that were on the calls have a significant degree of understanding about it, because we talked about it in great extent. So, but since you guys do, you know what the power of CryptoLottery is once we release it to the consumer market. InstaCrypto is obviously built for that. They have nothing to do with each other. In other words, someone could use InstaCrypto and be beyond thrilled or hate it or love it, or a million people could use it and never even know about CryptoLottery. And they shouldn't. or never be interested. Maybe that'll be our prerogative if we want to do cross advertising in the mobile application, but it's not necessary. It's not like there are requirements for each other. It's not like there's an incentive plan baked into that per se. And so like that, we really do have a pretty intense lineup of solutions that are, they're not, it's solutions, entertainment, whatever it is. And they're beyond what the world is seeing right now. I'm not saying that in a light fashion, you'll see. But that means that basket of direct to consumer apps are going to keep growing. And we're not that overly interested in, does this one work at mass scale or not? We know that it works. And that's the other thing about another beautiful thing about direct to D2C is that it doesn't need to be the biggest thing in the world. It just needs to work. And it's a software, it's going to scale. The cost of scaling is very little. So with that mentality, the difference again between the domain of the broker and the domain of the consumer is that if I'm a customer and I use InstaCrypto, I don't care if another customer is using InstaCrypto. I couldn't care at all. When I'm a customer, I use Coinbase. I don't care at all if someone else is using Coinbase and it's working for them and it's not working for them. I mean, I might read some reviews or something, but once I've used it and it works for me, I don't care. That's obviously not the case inside of the domain of a sales team or an affiliate network. Because inside of a sales team or an affiliate network, you have to have continuous positive sentiment from that sales team's customers. So everybody's customers have to be happy, or else that sentiment starts to erode. And then of course, that team has to be happy. I'm nothing against that. I was one that constantly, you're going to see how much more epic we're going to make even that domain. But right now I'm talking D2C, so I'm expressing the difference. So when it comes to that is why we're really excited, because the scaling that we can do from an application perspective, because we've already made the big investments into the ledger, into Vault as a service and security, all of that's done. Now it's just print, press, and repeat for whatever app. And so that's exciting. And it's not just exciting, it's refreshing, because that's allowing us to really spread our horizons and entrench ourselves as kind of, an infallible entity in several structural communities. I'm excited about that. Those are the two DTC right now. But obviously, once I finish explaining those two via the videos I'm releasing, the next several will come very quickly, very, very quickly. So before I get back into the InstaCrypto hyper domain, which is what I'm going to do on this call, and because you guys have seen the videos, I want to go quickly through what the structural or what it feels like in the broker domain, because right now we're in the DTC, and then what it feels like in the new token domain, and how they kind of relate with each other. Okay, so I'm leaving now, I'm going into broker. Now, I've not released any information about what I'm about to say, and I'm going to be very careful as to not release that much information right now, because I do want to spend the next week bathing even the brokers and the token holders in the direct-to-consumer mantra, because it's something they have to understand that those apps, those DTC apps are not, oh, let's plug them into what we're doing now. No, it's a new paradigm for us. And we've already seen what it feels like when customers that have nothing to do with the customers that were brought in by the brokers, or what our current networks looks like, when they experience that. It's exceptional. Yeah, you got to imagine how liberating that is when you can scale horizontally and vertically. Okay, now coming into so that's why I'm not trying to lose my mind on how exciting even the broker domain is, but so let me first state this. For all my talk on DTC, that's not my shit. Excuse my French. That's not my thing. I'm just saying that is how that domain works, and that is the commitment we've made as a company to have communities at the DTC app level, even can build communities at that level, at that, per use case. But my passion, what I think I'm contributing to the world has always been the idea of GX Broker.